Hello, everybody. I had a little bit of a glitch. I thought I was live. I was not live. Just give me like something in the comments if we're connected now. Welcome to season 2 of Quantum Witch Cafe, your safe place to talk about anything paranormal, fringe, UFO, UAP if you're fancy, anything that you would not say to your conservative friends at the dinner table, maybe. Or not. Maybe you've got some cool friends. But tonight I have the honor of being joined by Above and Below Paranormal, a investigation team out of Baltimore, and they don't only investigate in Baltimore but the surrounding areas. Had the honor of joining them on a public investigation. Everybody was super cool, so like we had to have them on. When I say we, I just mean me because I act like I'm more than one person. But before we get into that, I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. I see George. I see Above and Below Paranormal, whoever's running your YouTube, hello. I see Carolina, I see Laura, Jackie, I see Angel somewhere, and thank you for joining us live, and thank you for listening later. So I'm going to also say thank you to Adam Goldsack for letting me use his music, and just go follow him on Twitter. He's an amazing activist and even more amazing musician and author if you didn't know that. So I'm going to bring in a few of the team members from Above and Below Paranormal. I have Brandon. Hi, Brandon.
What's up?
And I have Doug.
How you doing?
How you doing? So we kind of had like a little pre-run because I thought we were live because it said go live. I said yes, and it never actually connected. So we got to practice this already while you guys were wondering where the hell we were. So we were just like having like a dry run, sound check and whatnot. So these things happen. But you know what also happens? Spirits and haunted places, and that's where you guys come in. So go ahead and introduce yourselves. I don't want to memorize a bio. This is a laid back environment. I like having a conversation. So, introduce yourself to people listening. Who are you and what is your role in Above and Below Paranormal?
So I am the founder. My name is Brandon Hogue. I started back when I was 16. I joined the team at 18. And with COVID and all that, my old team stopped. And eventually I was like, you know what? I miss it. So I decided to start my own team with my co-founder, Rob.
And I am Doug, and I'm the tech manager for Above and Below Paranormal. Got interested in it watching Ghost Hunters on television, kind of roped Brandon into it. I've known him since he was 9 years old, and been going at it since.
Very cool. You've known him since he was 9, and he is a grown man now. So you guys have had quite the history together.
Yep.
But how did you guys start Above and Below Paranormal? What is your reasoning behind this? Because not everybody says, "Hey, I'm gonna go run around abandoned buildings and find ghosts or haunted places." Most people like think that's crazy and they don't want to do it. I find that out the hard way because I'm always like, "Hey guys, let's go hunting. Let's go check out some haunted places." And most people are like, "What? That's crazy. Why would I do that?" So how did you get into this, and how did you start this team?
So for me personally, I've always been, excited about the paranormal, and I always had experiences. And then eventually Doug really took me on my first case. So that kind of just really started because, watching it and then investigating is two different things. So we had a blast the first night. And then eventually I joined a team, which was actually Rob's old team. And then I ended up switching teams, went to Above, and then, then with COVID happened, my old team decided pretty much to fold. And I got a call from a family saying they needed help. At that point, Rob and me went to Penhurst, and we realized how much we, love investigating and missed it. And we decided to take on that case with just myself and Rob. And then here we are a little over a year later. We are a team of 8 now. We have 1,500 followers almost on Facebook. Our YouTube is growing. Like I said, we just started it. TikTok's at like 2,600. And then last weekend we just did Penhurst Paracon. So in a year we've done a lot.
Wow, that definitely sounds like you've been busy since like COVID kind of gave this weird chance for people. It was almost like a reset button, and it sounds like you guys launched off from that like in the best way possible. So Doug, how did you end up forming this group too? Like where did you come into this? Were you just like how did you
Well,
become
what's
the team again? Because you guys have known each other so long, it feels like you've been there the whole time, but maybe not officially. Like how did you pop in as tech manager?
well, I've always been a techie when it comes to this kind of group. I love the cameras, all the scientific, products behind it that you can use on investigations. Um, but I really wasn't a part of the group until probably six months ago, roughly. Um, Brandon and Rob were having a discussion over evidence on the phone, and decided to give me a call because they couldn't agree on it, get my opinion on it, and I gave my opinion, obviously, and it ended up being paranormal. And from there, it kind of spiraled out of control with me coming from Ohio because that's where I live to do investigations with them in Maryland, and you know, just having fun doing it. Free investigations for all the people that have residential cases, and that's what we're all about. It's really helping people out. You know, we we just love really helping families.
So what makes you guys care about this? Helping families is, obviously a big part of it, right? Like you seem to care about people's well-being, especially in their homes and when it comes to spirits or, ghosts, whatever, however you refer to them. I know some people have like specific ways they refer to them, but how did you become interested in this? Did you guys have experiences like early in childhood, or was there one experience that made you, because I feel like everybody has like that like entry experience, right, where they're like, wait a minute, like this is real, like there's some stuff that we don't see happening.
Well, from the time now, I was probably 10 years old, and this was my very first experience ever, which I didn't know was an experience at the time because I'm just a little kid. I realized it was an experience when I started watching these ghost hunting shows on TV. But my aunt Gladys had passed away, and my father took my brother and myself, and we went obviously to the funeral, which was up in Michigan, and it was the whole family staying at Aunt Gladys's house. And I'll never forget, myself and my cousin Shannon were both sleeping in the living room because all the rooms were full with kids and adults and so on and so forth. We ended up getting up in the middle of the night, and the adult, my father, her father, and some other adults were playing cards at the kitchen table. Well, all of a sudden, I'm standing next to well, not all of a sudden I'm standing. I got up, stood next to my father while he's playing cards. Shannon stood next to her father. Well, all of a sudden, the back door opened and then closed, and then the refrigerator door opened and closed. And not till I was older did I find out that was Aunt Gladys's like path. As soon as she got home from work, she'd come in the back door, close the back door, right to the fridge, take a big swig of milk, and then put it back, close the door, and go to bed.
Wow. So how did you, that's definitely not normal, right? So like and as a child, you're just kind of like you, I think most of us want to rationalize experiences like that. But you can't really talk yourself into something prosaic when it's just not prosaic, right?
It,
So
it was I mean, as a child, it was terrifying, but at the same time, later on down the road, becoming teenager and realizing what had happened and being told that was most likely Aunt Gladys because that was her normal routine.
it was her
It was
behavior, yeah.
comforting then.
That's interesting that you say that was just her behavior, because you and I had a little bit of a talk when we were in the basement of Samuel Miller Mansion about like residual energy versus like a spirit that is more sentient. So what maybe you both can do this, and Brandon, I still need to hear your ghost story. Like I need to hear your breakthrough ghost story. But what to you, both of you, how can somebody tell the difference? Because I took a class, it was a mediumship class, and the person teaching the class is saying, oh no, ghost is residual energy, it's a pattern, and spirit is how we want to talk. But it's like people's different descriptions. But how would you know whether something is more of like a sentient entity or spirit versus kind of like a loop of like resonant energy or energy that's left behind?
And that's just it. An intelligent spirit or ghost, whatever you want to call it, will actually interact with you. Where a residual energy, it's a tape player playing over and over and over again, the exact same time, the exact same spot, over and over again, regardless of where you're at.
So that's interesting. Did you guys ever have any interactions with your aunt in that household afterwards, or do you think it was more of the residual type of replay?
I think it was a residual replay because there was no interaction.
Interesting.
And I also, just to feed off of that, like for residual, I think it's just being at the right place at the right time, you know? So, like, for instance, like Doug said, the tape player, if she walked in the door at 10 p.m. every night and that was her routine, then, at 10 p.m., if you catch it, then to me, that's residual. Again, that's just my opinion on it. And then for intelligent is something like, I know we talked about or played about where we're asking questions and we're getting knocks or a voice or anything along that lines, especially at Samuel Miller. I know you got to touch some of that. I know it wasn't super duper active that night, but you did get a little bit of that there.
Well, and sorry, brushing back on my point is, yes, it could have been residual, but it also could be. I've never seen residual be able to move objects. Let's put it that way. Normally,
That
it's
makes
like
sense.
footsteps, voices, stuff like that for residual. I've never actually seen a door open and a refrigerator door open. Normally, you hear the door open, but you never see it open. So it could have been a little bit of both. I don't know.
Very interesting. So, Brandon, what was your entry to the rabbit hole of paranormal investigation? What's your ghost story? What is the one that made you think like I need to do this and I want to know more about this phenomena?
All right. So, I've always had like I would say more like sensitive. I'm gonna never claim I'm a medium, but I've always had like odd feelings, stuff like that, knowing that maybe I'm not alone. Um, and then my first real experience was obviously the investigation with Doug, but my first like personal one that hit home was I was 18. I just graduated school, and then 3 weeks later, my grandmother passed away. And I was at the hospital the night she passed, and I came home, and like everyone who has lost a loved one, you can't sleep, especially when it's someone super close to you. You have such a hard time. So I'm just laying there. All the lights are off, no TV's on. I'm just laying in a pitch black room, just there. And all of a sudden, my room lights up. So I look at the foot of my bed, and my grandmother appears, gives me like just a smile, like, "Hey, I'm okay," and then just boom, gone, vanishes, and it goes right back to a pitch black room. And it was a good feeling. I felt like a lot of warmth and happiness, but at the same time, I'm like, "Oh shit, what did I just see?" Because you don't expect to see it.
No, and it's always like that shocked feeling that people get. I'm just going to address something in the comments really fast. Hey Bob, I love you. You're a great supporter of the channel, but let's not trash talk Mr. Daniel Sheehan right now randomly. If you could keep, I really appreciate it, and I do love having you in the chat. You're always fun, but let's leave the priest out of it for now, unless we're talking exorcisms tonight. So yeah, which brings me to: have you guys had to work with any priests under some kind of intense cases? What are some of the cases where you're more scary cases, right? So like people call you into their homes because they're, I'm sure like a number of feeling a number of things, right? Like either they're afraid or they're curious, right?
Go
So,
ahead, Brandon.
yeah, I
This
was
is
gonna say
all
I'll
Yeah.
you.
touch on it. Well, I'll touch on it real fast. So, especially with now being the founder and like having kind of, so to speak, say on what cases we do and don't. Um, we always try to hear people out and then do a walkthrough. Now, a lot of people got to remember humans in general, and especially people with kids, are really scared. So when they tell a story, usually it is a little extra than what it is. So not every case is demonic, not every case is bad. A 5-year-old sees a spirit that says "get out." Well, now that kid's scared. Now the parent is scared, and it rolls downhill, and everything keeps going. So we go in and we try to rationalize and break down what we think. Now, have we been on demonic cases? Yes. Have we been on darker cases? Yes. I've also dealt with evil spirits that weren't demonic. So, with that being said, that's the gist of everything to start out, and then we can keep going. And I'll let Doug go.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
Doug.
have
Tell me
we
some scary stuff, or tell me some not scary stuff, but some
we haven't
times where
had
sorry, go ahead.
we haven't had to deal with any priests coming in per se, but we have had to have a full cleansing of at least one location that I know of that took it was probably a 10-hour cleansing to finally get rid of the negativity and the demon that was there, because it truly was a demon that was attacking this lady.
Well, that's scary. That's how are you able, besides, I know a lot of people will get like a gut feeling, right, when something's just not human or if it's just not right. And like you said, and in most of the cases probably are not like this. But how do you know, like, what sort of like indications are you looking for that this is not something that's going to move along easily? This is not something living peacefully with the owners. Because I know some spirits just live with, they coexist. And these are, how do you know that? What are like the telltale signs of like we have to do something to help these people get rid of this entity versus like you can peacefully coexist with this spirit?
Well, the case, speaking of, I'm not going to give the lady's name, but um, when we got there, we knew the claims, so on and so forth, but we didn't know anything was negative whatsoever. We didn't know anything was demonic until way later in the case. Um, this lady had complained, feet being tugged while she's in bed, covers being pulled off of her, hearing voices, stuff moving, so on and so forth. But the major claim was her health was deteriorating. I mean, literally constantly deteriorating to where she was on the verge of death, and the doctors couldn't figure out why this was happening to her. There was no medical reason whatsoever. So we listen to all the claims, so on and so forth, and we go into this investigation. And mind you, it's just myself, Brandon, and Rob. And we start doing the investigation, so on and so forth. Well, about halfway through the investigation, now this is probably about 2 o'clock in the morning. Um, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's the worst smell you could ever imagine in your life. It was almost like human feces, animal feces, rotting flesh, um, a dead deer laying on the side of the road. I mean, it was all combined, this smell, and it was so putrid, like it made you gag. It was there, and then within an instant, it was gone. So, right then and there, we were like, there's something else going on. So, Brandon and I start walking around this, that, and the other, and we found a closet. And I was like, there's not going to be anything in a closet. It's only 3 foot, 4 foot wide by 6 foot long. It's not a big closet at all.
And just to cut in, I had a bad feeling about this closet. So I was like, Doug, there's something in here.
Yeah.
So I'll let Brandon finish the rest of it because
Thanks. So again, I stop at this closet and I'm like, Doug, just something's not right in here. Like I just gotta check in here. And mind you, there's kids at this location, So, the kids were getting messed with. That was part of the claim too. So I go in here and we're maneuvering around all the toys and stuff. And I'm like, kind of like handing stuff to Doug, like, hey, Doug, move this out of the way. Well, I move something and this sword falls and almost cuts me. And thank goodness it didn't. Uh, but, but I like grab the sword and I like pick it up and Doug shines his light on it and there was blood on it. So obviously we're like, okay, that's not normal. Why would you have, a blood-filled sword in the room? So then I start digging through and I find this box, and then I open the lid of this box and we find all these sacrificial items to do ceremonies. And there was, Doug, what all was there in there? I'm trying to think of everything that was in
an
that box.
altar. There was an altar. There was a satanic Bible. There was like these little vials of, I don't even know. They were like little animal bones and almost like trinkets. And then there was a chair in there. And we actually emptied the closet out and we found in the bottom of the chair the pentagram. It was carved in the bottom of the chair and then lined with blood. And come to find out that all that stuff was this lady's ex-husband's stuff that he left in the house, and he left it there on purpose.
Because short version of the story is he allowed the demon to come in by these rituals, and he did it to harm his ex-wife. Is the short version.
He was trying to kill her.
Wow. That's terrifying. Angel asked it, was this in the kids' room?
No, it was a closet with the kids' toys in it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And somebody else said sulfur. Take sulfur and multiply it by like 50, and like that was the smell that Doug's talking about. It cleared rooms.
Like,
I mean, it was awful.
It's when people say it smells like death. I've had a similar experience with some demons, and it smells like rot, like you were saying, like it smells like you said, like it was have a little sulfur, but also like you walked into like a room full of roadkill. Like it's just it's like when people say it smells of death, it smells of death. Like it's
undescribable.
Yeah, exactly. It is. I've had it. It was just very
I don't recall there being a sulfur smell to this. Like I said, it was the most putrid, disgusting smell that you will ever smell in your life.
Right. And I am starring the questions and we'll get to those too, because I see some good questions here. Study of UAPs and Carolina. We will get to those.
Yeah, please save them. I'm interested in.
Oh yeah, I'm saving them. Yeah.
Well, I just mean them in general. So everybody that doesn't know, I have my laptop up too because I can't see the comments on the phone. So I'm reading them here as well. So I definitely told Priscilla we want to try to answer as many questions.
Oh, for sure. We definitely going to save some time for questions, or if we're just talking about something and the question comes back to it. So there is a question relating to, I said something about exorcisms, and study UIPs. That's like, she's in Baltimore too. She's super cool. Oh, nice. I wonder if, she says, I do wonder if exorcisms are harmful to some sort of natural order. Should we leave ghosts alone? So we had an interesting, not everybody wants the spirits to be messed with or moved on or crossed, right? So what is your thought on this? Do you think that, I guess it's a two-part question. Should we leave the ghosts alone?
Well, the exorcism part of it is geared towards the, I don't always want to call it a demon, but the negative spirit, which would technically, I guess, be demon, if you will, that is geared specifically for that. It doesn't harm, from my understanding anyways, in speaking to a lot of people on this, it doesn't harm the other spirits that reside in the place. It's strictly geared towards that negativity. So with that being said, it's not a question of leaving the other spirits alone because it doesn't affect the other spirits.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like that whole Yeah, that makes sense because I tell people too when they're cleansing their house with like certain herbs and plants, like if you have a spirit that's not mean and it's a positive spirit and you're just afraid of it, this is not going to get rid of them.
Correct.
It's going to get rid
Yeah.
of like the darker energies, the heavier energies, the stuff that, if you're just afraid of something unknown, but it's just like a happy old grandma that's been in that house, you know what I mean? She's
Yeah.
probably going to stay unless you have like a professional medium come and move her on, or whoever it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Some people don't, some spirits don't want to move on. They're content with what they are.
Right.
We find that especially true in older houses,
Mhm.
because a lot of people built their houses from the ground up, so they put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. And in my belief,
Right.
why wouldn't you want to stay on something you built from the ground up?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I have one in this house too, and I know the people that sold it to me. She said to reach out with any questions if I did have any experiences, but I'm just being like shy at the moment. I don't want to be like, hey, who died here? What's her name?
Right.
This, I just don't know how to approach somebody with that because I've never had the opportunity to ask somebody that has their family's been in this house since 1923, so they know the history of the house. So like, I could be like, hey, like I got this name. Is that resonating? Like I just feel like it's being nosy, but I will ask eventually. Um,
Well, also on that, we don't, even if people want, we don't try to cross over spirits.
right.
We know people who can, so we will
Okay.
contact them if that's what people want. But going into an investigation, we absolutely do not try to cross over anything.
Right. This that was kind of answers Laura's questions. Do you have a medium on your team?
No.
We technically do not, but we have friends that, as Doug said, are medium,
Okay.
and we have some friends that are Native American and some other things that I think cover a good majority of what you can see in this paranormal field,
Very
as
cool.
in helping pass over, with dealing with attachments, anything along them lines.
Very cool. Yeah, because sometimes they want to, sometimes they don't. This is going to bring me to kind of like my next question. So haunted places. You're Maryland based, but you do investigations in other places as well, right? So one of those places
Yeah.
that I was able to join the public and some of the things that you do public investigations from time to time, and that's when anybody can come and basically shadow you while you're doing an investigation. So one of the places was Samuel Miller, and I want to talk about something very unique that you guys did for one of the spirits there, and tell us. You can tell us a little bit about that place. How did you guys get like lured out of Maryland to go to Samuel Miller Mansion? And what is your relationship with that place? And then I kind of want to talk about the attic ghost or the attic
So
spirit.
I'll start, Doug, real fast, and then you can follow up and then lead into the experience you guys had. So the owner of Sam and Miller, her name is Amy, and she's been wonderful. I can't say enough how wonderful she's been. I mean, she literally trusts us, gives us a key, and says, "Have at it." Um, the very first moment I stepped in there, uh, we had activity right away. Like even doing a walkthrough because we just wanted to see where to set up the cameras. Um, so we do that. Had experiences. The very first night we were there, definitely had experiences. He came in from Ohio for that one. And then we do analysis and we catch all this evidence, and it was wonderful. Then we host the first public ghost hunt, which you did not go to that one. You went to the second one, and we had great activity there. And then you came to yours, and we had good activity again. So it's just been a wonderful place. We had a blasting up history, such as the Underground Railroad. Um, it was just again, it's just a phenomenal place. Everybody's been wonderful. We've had a lot of support there. And then we were told about all these rumors, all these spirits, and that'll lead Doug to where you're going to go next. So I'll hand it over to him.
Well, just just to clarify first, I'm not a skeptic of the paranormal. I'm skeptical of people. I do not believe people's claims at all because most people it claims they have paranormal activity either one really embellish the truth or they're just total quacks. And I don't mean quacks, ignorantly. They just it's I don't know how to describe it. They just think that they're seeing and having all these things happen when they really aren't. And they'll send us pictures and so on and so forth. And it's absolutely nothing. But um, with the Samuel Miller Mansion, um, Amy, on the initial walkthrough before we did our first investigation, just as a group, she was claiming that you had to have the psychic ability in order to communicate with spirits. They won't communicate with you unless you have the psychic ability, so on and so forth. And I just told you I'm skeptical of people, so I instantaneously think we're not going to get anything when we walk into this place. It's just a really awesome history with the Underground Railroad, so on and so forth. And we didn't even make it into the building. We were waiting for Amy to get there, and myself and Angel both had paranormal experiences sitting out on the sidewalk waiting to get in. Um, and that kind of sparked off everything for that night, and it was absolutely amazing. Tons of evidence, so on and so forth. But getting to what you were saying about the attic situation, um, the claims in the attic were of a very angry spirit who, if I'm not mistaken, Brandon, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but killed his son and then felt guilty because he killed his son and hung himself from the third story banister.
You were
Which,
close. It was just his daughter.
oh, daughter. I'm sorry. Okay, so daughter, not son. So this is the claims that have been told to every single group that has gone in there. And prior to our second investigation, I'm sorry, second public ghost hunt, we were sitting at a team meeting and we were all discussing this angry man. And myself and Angel brought up, well, what if this man's story is not being told correctly? You know, what if uh, I'm sorry, it wasn't myself and Angel. We were talking about the offering. It was Sharon and Debbie who brought up, what if this man's story is not being told properly, and that's why he's so angry. He's not a mean spirit by all means. So Angel and I decided that we were going to provide him with an offering and some kind words before the public ghost hunt, before anybody got there, and that's what we did. We went up and explained, we're here tonight. I know you remember us. Um, we have an offering for you because we want you to feel like we're being very respectful to you, and we understand that your story probably hasn't been told correctly. And we gave him a bottle of whiskey, a cigar, and a chocolate bar. And when, and I, Priscilla, you were there with us. When we walked up those stairs, the air was so
Mhm.
thick. And by the time we were done with that offering, it just felt so light in that room,
Yeah.
and it actually felt welcoming. So
Yes.
Can,
go
I
ahead,
want to
Brandon.
touch. I just want to say I want to touch on stuff, just real fast, and then you guys can continue. Is our goal with when I started ABP and Priscilla, you mentioned it earlier, was helping the families, helping all that. But we also believe in helping the spirits too, and that was something you got to witness firsthand with that offering. So I just want to touch on that. Is
Absolutely.
we try to help everyone, including the people that are not living.
Yes, the level of respect that you guys gave the spirits that night was really impressive. This is Angel. She's part of the team, right? So
Yes,
keep in mind we couldn't last. I want to make sure it was the right one, right
Yeah.
person. Keep in mind we couldn't last more than 20 minutes in the attic for the first public ghost hunt or for the first time we investigated.
that's
And
right.
We didn't even
um,
touch the attic in the first investigation.
right, and the owner says she won't go up there by herself. Initially when I was talking to her, but yeah, it was crazy because I think that people that are into this sort of thing kind of do have a little bit of like their energetic feelers out a little bit more. I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, we're so gifted, we feel this stuff. I'm saying I think everybody has it for one, but people that are interested in it or maybe had these experiences early on or had these experiences versus somebody that doesn't is aware of the energy a little bit more than other people. When we went up into the attic, and it wasn't just because of what you've told me, because I've dealt with some very mean spirits and entities before. So I kind of know like you have to go up there with authority and just be. You can't be afraid right away, or it's gonna mirror back, you know. So going up there, it did feel tense. You know, it did feel heavy. And after you did the offering, I did record it and I was gonna play it, but then I kind of felt like you're gonna put it on your YouTube channel, which
It is already there. So if you would like to play
yeah.
it, you can absolutely play it if you would like.
Well, I
Yeah,
did
go
not.
ahead.
I didn't upload it on my computer yet because
Ah.
I was like I wanted to. I did because I was like maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just have them talk about it and then they can go watch it on your channel, which is linked in the description, guys. The website's in the description with all their links. So I didn't want to take away from that. So I didn't even put it on my computer. But it was beautiful the way you were talking to the spirit. It was like talking to an old friend, you know, and that goes to say like the respect that you have for spirits is the respect that you're going to get back in a lot of cases.
Well, and to add to that point, we don't treat spirits like they're spirits because you have to remember they were human at one point in time. They were alive, so we treat them as people. You know, they're not dead to us. They're just on a different plane than we are. So you really have to just get that emotional attachment, you know, and full respect because you're not going to walk into somebody's house and walk right up to their fridge and open their fridge and take the milk out of the fridge. You're literally going to ask and so on and so forth.
Right. And you're not going to provoke them either, right? Like a lot of people have seen this on, you know, shows or whatever, and they think it's okay, but it's you would not do that to grandma or grandpa that's passed. So why are you doing it to these spirits, you know?
Right. Yeah, we try our best never to provoke. Even with training and even with the public ghost hunt you saw, we kind of gave a breakdown of kind of like okay questions, not okay questions, stuff like that. And then to feed off of Doug, you know, these spirits were human. They had a wife or a husband. They had dogs. They had cats. They had kids. They had everything. So again, we really try to keep that in focus in the forefront when we go and do these investigations. Now, for everybody, I know a couple people have commented in the chat and stuff. When we did our first public ghost hunt, the attic was very overwhelming with, energy. And we were getting things on voice recording and through Spirit Box. The spirit was telling us to get the F out at one point. And Doug, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Doug was sitting by this cutout window, and he literally felt and I think heard a spirit run up at him. And Doug is no little guy. Doug is a 6'4", so he's a tall dude. I've never seen Doug really jump, but it came quick.
Now, mind you, there was 10 people up there, so it was as full as when you were in our group, Priscilla, and you saw how many people were sitting and standing. Yeah. I made it completely across the room in 3 steps without stepping on any equipment or anybody without a flashlight.
My goodness. Yeah. So, but like you said, like if somebody's misunderstood, then why wouldn't they be a little irritated, right? So after you guys did the offering, and I think Angel was up there, she was like, I'm going to clean up in here for you a little bit. It's kind of messy. And it was just like, you felt like this, like almost like a sigh, like how you feel after taking a sigh when everything's going to be okay. Do you know what I mean? The air just kind of like changed, and it was like, I was asking like, was it because I was anticipating something? But I had to remember, I've also dealt with some very horrible spirits. And even on public investigations, it's like, they're not afraid. If they're like mean spirits that were mean in real life, then they retain those traits. Like they're just jerks. They're going to be like that sometimes after they die and stick around. So I've dealt with that before. And this was definitely like you felt like the spirit appreciated that gesture. And I wanted to talk about that because it's not a lot of people are there to help the spirits like you say you are. So a lot of people are there for the evidence. They're there for like the sexy abandoned hospitals. And, it's very cool to go to these places, but at the same time, like a lot of this stuff is happening in people's homes every day. and they're not going to put some, you know, unless it's something like sensation that the people can be sensationalized. People don't care to put it on TV or investigate it, but you guys seem to investigate the full spectrum of spirits, whether you're thinking it's scary or not, or it's just somebody like, what's going on in my house? Things are moving, you know? So I appreciate and knowing that there's people like you, like out there investigating. What are some of the more haunted places like that were in Maryland? Where, you know, have you done any out in, you know, Baltimore area or the surrounding areas in Maryland? Is there any spots that you want to investigate? Because there's a lot that that are said to be haunted here, right? Have you been to any of those places, or are there any places on your radar that you would like to go to?
In Maryland or in general, where I would like to go.
Let's talk about Maryland and then expand
Okay.
out.
You know, Fort McHenry would be one. You know, Star Spangled Banner, all that was written there. Um, so you know, I like to go there, just history wise, but it's hard. But I'm also a person that wants to go in a place where I'm welcomed and I'm respected. And sometimes when you have to go to a place with the government involved, they're like, yeah, no, get out. Um, so again, that's one I would like to just because of the history. I'm not big into cemeteries, so anybody that is here and listening, definitely, I don't think they're haunted. So we can just cover that now because it's going to come up later. It always
Yeah.
comes up.
Yeah.
Now I do know that someone I'm friends with, the Natty Bow office in downtown Baltimore, called a different team and asked them to come and investigate. And from what I understand, they actually never went. So I definitely would like to go to the Natty Bow Brewery and experience anything that they have. And I mean, obviously, that's like, you know, Maryland heritage there. So Natty Bow would
For
definitely be
sure.
one that I would go to. High Empirical, I see they like their stuff. They are Priscilla Empirical Paranormal. Are
Hello.
a
Thank you for
team
coming.
they are a team out of New York, and they are
Oh,
actually
cool.
A Taps affiliated family member. So the Taps family actually allow them to be part of their family.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
Well,
so they're
hello. Thanks.
really really good people.
Yeah, I'm loving, you know, I wanted to incorporate more paranormal into the show. It's just another one of my interests. You know, I love, and you're gonna laugh, Brandon, because you don't believe it's real, but you know, it's mostly a UFO channel. It's a UAP channel because we're fancy,
wait,
right? We say UAP
wait,
now. We
wait! I have a story though. I have a story in
Oh,
honor
okay. You
in
know the UFOs was
honor.
gonna come in at some point, right, guys? Like I had to do it.
I'm prepared.
Okay.
So
He did his homework.
yeah, I did. So I literally just finished yesterday all 3 seasons of Skinwalker Ranch because I'm like, I know something UFO is gonna come up. I gotta be prepared. So I did my homework.
So what do you think of Skinwalker Ranch then? You watched them all, you binge watched them.
I definitely would like to see a little more. I like to see a little more paranormal side, because
It
I
seems
don't
like
think
there's a
it's
lot of
just.
paranormal, right?
But I want more of a less alien, so to speak, or
Right.
like
Okay.
UFOs, etc. And I would also like to see stuff like directed more towards spirits, ghosts, Native American land, stuff like that. Because I've been on cases where, you know, a Native American tribe has been there, or like one of the leaders, and we actually have one of our medium friends have to get permission from them to be able to investigate the land, so to speak. Even though the person was passed away, the leader of the clan, you know, they were very protective over the land still. So she spoke to
It's a
him and said,
tribe,
"Hey, yeah, I'm
Well
not a
sorry, so
clan.
tribe,
said
yes,
clan. Calm
yeah."
down,
But
sportsman.
still, but we did get permission from the tribe, and we went and fixed everything, and we're able to investigate it and stuff like that. So, so I do think part of that is Skinwalker Ranch, and then yeah, the UFOs part that's definitely interesting. So
You feel like you're watching it, you're like, oh my gosh, but there's so much paranormal stuff, and you guys are focusing on these things in the sky. You know, it's all of it seems to happen in that spot. So I think there's a little something weird there for everyone to investigate. um,
yeah.
yeah. So what about the Lord Baltimore Hotel out here? Back to Baltimore, because I'm trying to like, you know, I'm only going to be here 2 years.
Oh,
Oh, see,
you're good.
paranormal activity, guys. Just
No, that
kidding.
was my
I'm
foot
just kidding.
actually.
I'm just kidding.
That was his paranormal foot.
It's a
Yeah.
restless leg syndrome.
Yeah, pretty much. Lord Baltimore, I know a couple people that have investigated it, but again, I think so. For me, I try to network with the teams that I trust and I believe in, and I know that want the same goals as us, which is the truth. We are not a team about making money. We aren't that team. Even when you come to our public ghost hunts, we donate the money to the said location, so that way they can restore or fix a wall or get AC, whatever they want, their goal. So with that being said, if Lord Baltimore and I could get it for just us, then yeah, I'd be okay with investigating it. Joining another team, that I have to pay for, probably not.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it seems that I talk to, because I'm a weirdo and I talk to people everywhere. But I was getting a coffee there one day because my husband works in downtown. And what was I even doing? I just was getting, and I started talking to the lady. I'm like, so anything weird happened here? And she's just like going on about like stuff she's experienced. So I was like, that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll just get a room here. But you should not investigate alone. I know it. I know it. Because there's some very naughty spirits out there. There was a question up here. Speaking of naughty spirits, Carolina, and this kind of ties into like Skinwalker Ranch a little bit, the so-called hitchhiker effect. So,
No,
do you ever worry that things are going to follow you home?
no,
Um, you don't.
nope.
What about you,
And
Brendan?
I think there's always a chance, but normally no. And I know Doug's going to touch on it next. I will say on the demonic cases, I've been on two. On one of them, I actually was more worried because at that point I was a father and I had a small kid at home.
Yeah.
But I made sure that I cleansed myself and did proper stuff.
And you have to you have to think when you're going into a location such as Samuel Miller, you know, they may want to hitchhike home with you because they love you. They interact with you all the time, every time you're there. But before you leave, you have to set your boundaries. You can't follow me home. You can't attach
Right.
yourself to me. You're not allowed to touch me. You know, and that's I've never had it. So
Yeah, that's a lot of people. Last year, when I finally got to go to it's going like my first overnight investigation in Kentucky. It was like people were like, "Oh my gosh, like something's gonna follow you home," because it's people are always afraid of that. But I do the same thing. I'm like, "You're not coming with me. You're gonna be chill when I'm here. You're not gonna hurt me. You're not really allowed to." So, but I mean, I know that like that doesn't work in all cases because if something's gonna hurt you, it's gonna try and hurt you. But this segues into this question from Deb. Is there a quick way to discern negative spirits? We kind of talked about this early on. Um, she, okay, so she says, I sense something uncomfortable around spirits. I mean, I guess the question is, how do you tell if you're just afraid because you're human and there's a spirit, it's something unfamiliar, and whether something is really actually evil or negative?
the e just from experience, the evil negative ones tend to stay away from you until you're tired in that investigation and you're worn down from that investigation. Then they come at you. Um, the, I mean, honestly, the quickest way is interaction with the, spirit box or EMF detector, whatever way you can communicate with them, knocks, so on and so forth. Um, Especially if you know the location and you know the spirits that are there, i.e., Samuel Miller Mansion. I know answers because we've had in-depth conversation through EVP and actual audible voices. I know answers to certain questions. So when they're asked, and you know, if it's a different answer, then I tend to um, I don't know I don't know how to say it. Um, okay, let's just put it this way. The last investigation we were on, we were talking to the spirit Thomas, and this was in the group session on the first floor. And Thomas was being asked a bunch of questions that I already knew the answers to, that not many people knew the answers to in that room. And we were getting yes for no answers and no for yes answers by knocks. And we actually caught the people on camera um, doing these knocks. So, fake evidence is not for us. We're not a certain group that presents themselves on Discovery Plus. We really, we really like to interact with the spirits properly, and I think that's why we get as much evidence as we do, because how we interact with them. So, to answer the question, negative spirits are going to come at you when you're most vulnerable, when you're tired. They're going to be standoffish. You're not even going to know they're there. So, I mean, that's just how it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense. That kind of brings me to like the next question. What is like the most compelling type of evidence that you're looking for, or that you've encountered in a haunted place? Like, is there's something where you're like, yes, that, like, I can't explain that any other way? Is there any sort of equipment that you look for more, use more for that sort of thing, or is it a combination, like multiple data points? What are some examples of like compelling evidence to you?
Compelling evidence, and we've caught this multiple times on DVR, shadows, shadow people folding across the camera. Um, Go ahead, Brandon. I mean,
I was gonna say, so like, so for us, I always try to say I try to do things in three. So like if for instance, Doug saw a lady on the second floor of Samuel Miller Mansion. Well, okay, that's one. That's a personal experience, right? But then when we went back in to investigate, we got EVPs in that area of a woman. We got flashlights and other devices turning on. The music box was going on and off. So I always try to have different equipment plus personal experiences in to factor in to, say, okay, this is actually a compelling piece of evidence. Because let's be honest, somebody could close their car door outside, and depending on where I'm in the house, it could sound like somebody tapping on the wall. So I need more. I don't just believe that, one little tap makes it paranormal. And I also say go in and investigate. A lot of people hear a tap and then just sit there like, okay. We'll go knock. Was there a mouse crawling on the floor? Was there a bird, or as Doug likes, a bat flying flying in the room? Uh, so you got to keep that in mind too. Be cautious and aware of your surroundings, because a lot of times the buildings will speak to you and let you know what's going on.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense. So my next question is kind of something that some people are okay with, some people are not okay with on investigations, and that is sort of like the quote unquote occult items. So Ouija boards, anything with letters. Do you steer clear of those? If yes, why? If no, why are you so crazy? I'm kidding.
we absolutely do.
Steer clear of them.
Because yes,
Yeah.
we do not use them. We if you bring one to an investigation with us, you will not be allowed to investigate. Period. Um, I personally have had a terrifying experience when I was a kid using a Ouija board, because I didn't know what a Ouija board was when I was a kid. They just sold them in they sold them in the toy store, for God's sakes. You know, but knowing now what I know about them, and people say, well, it's the intent of the use of it. It has nothing to do with intent. You could have the best intentions in the world and something negative can come through. It doesn't matter what your intents are. So we 100% steer clear of everything that has to do with the occult.
So, and to feed off of that, myself and Doug, were on another demonic case, not the one he originally talked about, the second demonic case. And that actually had a Ouija board that was, used at that location. And that helped assist the activity that was there. And I believe it let in a demon, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that. I'm on the edge about it. I would not use one in my house. So I guess I would not use one in somebody else's house, including the spirits. So I don't mess with them. If I'm not gonna be like slap it out of somebody's hand, because usually people are gonna do it if they're gonna do it. Unless it's I'm running like, unless they're in my house, I'm not gonna take it away from them. But I also don't think that it's a good idea to use in a place that is kind of known to have like if you used a Ouija board at Skinwalker Ranch, that would probably not be a good idea. So Deb asks if so you have to understand, if you're not into the UFO land like we are, like Deb and I are, and a lot of people that are watching me and listening are, there's a lot of overlap between people seeing, UFOs and or having like an entity experience with something they think is a interdimensional being or some being that's not of the planet or of this realm, I guess. A lot of people will report shadow people, and shadow people is something that UFO experiencers and paranormal, like I know paranormal is such a big word, it encompasses so much, but haunted plate locations also have shadow people. So I'm not sure if they've even looked into this, Deb. I will ask, what do you think of shadow people in UAP cases?
I've never heard of that personally, and I like that kind of field. I've heard of the Greys, and so on and so forth. But um, you have to look at it this way: everything that's not explained is not of the normal, so it's paranormal.
Right.
So whether it's a UAP, a shadow figure, a full body apparition, it's not of our normal day to day life. So therefore, it's paranormal. It's a very broad spectrum.
Yeah, and it's strange. So many will kind of like overlap. Like you have people that study Sasquatch, and they're like, I don't care about ghosts, human ghosts, and I don't care about UFOs. But then like it seems like the more people research, they're realizing these kind of things overlap. But I know that the human spirit paranormal community is a little, most of them are only into that. But I have a friend too, like she's a gifted medium. Hey Crystal, if you're listening to this one, she'll say like, I'll handle any mean spirit, anything like that, but I don't bring any of those like grays around me or whatever. She doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So but it's just like the unknown is the unknown, right? And shadow people, I feel like it's almost like a default mode for something we see that we don't have a name for, or something that our brain can't really like we're seeing its energy as it's presenting itself, but our brain's like, I don't know, it's a shadow, because we don't have like we've never seen it, or our brain can't quite process that being. So we're just like shadow people is the default. You at Waverly Hills, there was like a lot of the shadow people when I did the overnight there in Kentucky, and it was like people were so afraid of that. I'm like, these just kind of just looks like a busy hallway, and it was a busy place and a lot of people died, so it's probably just busy bodies moving. But the whole UFO and the shadow people thing, I still don't know what to make of that. But I think you're
Well,
right.
I mean, it's as I recently have found the the findings of when people claim to see Bigfoot, they then see certain lights in the sky
Mm.
at the same exact time. So what they're trying to say now is that Bigfoot or Sasquatch is an interdimensional being that
Right.
everywhere. So is it a possibility? Absolutely. Have I seen it? No. I'm open. I'm not. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm open to all paranormal. So
Yep. What about you, Brandon? How do you feel about the whole Sasquatch phenomenon? I only asked because I saw him smirking when I said, "Oh, there's Sasquatch."
Um, I think it was Doug walking through the woods and just got mistaken for
Oh my
Bigfoot.
gosh.
Um,
All right, Deb, you'll have to tell DJ we found
no,
Sasquatch. He's coming tonight.
I'm one of them people where I am skeptical, and the older I get, I become more skeptical. As working and doing other things, you find out a lot of people lie. Is that to
Mhm.
get attention? Is that to get fame? There's a lot of reasons to it. For me, I've never experienced anything where I could say I've had a Bigfoot experience. Just like I've never had anything like I told you, like UFO or anything like that.
Right.
Now, have I watched stuff and said, that's interesting? Is there a possibility? Sure. But again, I would like to have an experience where it really opens my eyes, such as
Oh,
I've
don't
had
lie.
that with
Don't
the
lie.
paranormal.
Don't lie. Tell them you don't believe in Bigfoot, period.
He's being
Okay, I don't believe in
he's
Bigfoot.
being so
There you
nice,
go.
huh?
I'm trying to
Yeah,
be
no, I
right
told
now.
him when I asked him to come on the show, I was like, okay, like most of my stuff's UFO, but I'm trying to kind of have more of like a broad range of things, you know. And he's like, I was like, what sort of things would you like? He's like, oh, we can talk about anything, and I'm like, okay, well, what sort of equipment do you think people would bring to like if they were gonna? What would you bring to a UFO investigation? He's like, I wouldn't, because I don't think they're.
Yeah. Hey,
So that's why I geared the questions. Like the UFOs are gonna pop in because that's just me. Like, but at the same time, like I was like, we're gonna keep it about like your investigations. We're gonna keep it about ghosts, spirits, haunted places.
Like you, I did do some research and I was reading up on it and watching, obviously, like I said, Skinwalker Ranch and stuff. So that way I could, at least have an understanding of what you believe and what you see and all that. I'm not ignorant to the fact that you guys believe it. It's just I want to have something that makes me believe it,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Well, we'll send one by. Next time they come get me, I'll be like, hey, let's go visit Brandon. I'm just kidding.
All right, deal.
And then we'll go pick up Bigfoot. I mean Doug. So.
Please have the wireless DVR running when you when they come and get you.
It's gotta be a blurry phone like photo like this if I see it, right? Or else it doesn't. It's
No,
not really
no.
a photo.
Well, that's Bigfoot. I'm talking UFO now.
Oh, they're like that. Yeah, there's all sorts of crazy footage out there. Like it was the most stunning thing, and nobody thinks to like put it on a tripod. But,
And I want to. You were talking about compelling evidence a little bit earlier, and I actually forgot to mention this. We just purchased a brand new piece of equipment. It's called an EDI, which we can take a voice recorder and sync it up with this piece of equipment, and it has different scientific stuff to it, like barometric pressure, humidity, so on and so forth, which is said when a spirit interacts, they can actually change those readings on this piece of equipment. It also has a geophone in it, an EMF detector, all this stuff. So, yeah. So now we're trying to be more scientific about stuff, as well as catching the evidence.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have as many different. Like it's the same thing in UFO land. Like we want to have, like when somebody comes out with a video. There's a big controversial one happening right now about like a triangle or at 29 Palms in military base, and people are saying like, well, okay, well, that's cool. You have all these witnesses, you have these videos, you have all these different analysis that people are doing on the video. Some is showing something, some of the analysis are showing nothing. We still haven't had a proper forensic analysis on it. It doesn't seem, it seems like people just like doing it online or whatever. But like we have that with like some of the UFO cases, like the one that was in the New York Times. There's like supposedly there's radar operators that saw it. There's pictures, there's video, there's FLIR. So you have even in like spirit land where you're trying to investigate these spirits or these people that are lingering. You definitely want to be able to measure all those changes because a lot of times people feel that, right? Like barometric pressure might change. You can feel it in your body a little bit, but unless you have something like to show somebody, it's just another ghost story. Which Don't get me wrong, I love a good ghost story, but at the same time, you have to have all those things. And that thing sounds cool. Did you have it? Did you just get it, or did you have it at the last public investigation?
No, we just bought it, so it'll be here for when we do the big investigation in July in Indiana.
We actually just bought a couple pieces of equipment. That was just one of the couple.
All right. So what is your like equipment list? Like, like what do you that was a question. It was a question that I had written down.
We've got a lot of equipment.
I wasn't sure. What is like the ones like what are some pieces of equipment that you're like, okay, I'm glad I bought that, and some that you're just like, don't even bring it, like just leave it at home. Like what is your must have? You're on an island investigating ghosts like Scooby-Doo. You can only have 5 pieces of equipment. Which ones?
Well, I know me and Doug will both agree a voice recorder first and foremost. I'll say a camcorder because you want to make sure you can see what you're doing and filming it. Um, I would say a flashlight. I'm a little more leery on them now that I figured out you can actually make them turn on and off by themselves. But I will say a flashlight. Definitely an EMF meter, a K2, whatever anybody prefers. Um, that way you can measure the field around you and make sure that obviously on a deserted island you wouldn't have one, but in my list I would have one. Um, and then probably a thermal. I'd probably do a thermal for my fifth one. That way I could see different heats and be able to see what I have around me.
And what
That'd be
about
my
you?
five.
Yes to all those too, or do you have one that you prefer that he didn't mention? You're only allowed to bring two to the
I'm
island.
only allowed to bring two. So that would definitely be the. Do I have Wi-Fi on the island?
Yeah, of course. Come on, Starlink.
Okay.
It matters. It really matters.
You have a hotspot on the island. We'll allow the hotspot on the haunted island.
Then I would bring the wireless DVR and a digital voice recorder.
Very good. And in between the both of you, you'll have a ton of equipment.
So just real fast, I'm reading a couple of people. Do the free like EMF meter apps and stuff on work? We don't use phone apps. Your phone
No.
apps can set off all the equipment.
You're not even
During
allowed. You weren't
hold
allowed
on.
to have them on, right? So
No.
During the investigation, you weren't allowed to have them on, but during free roam, you were. And I tested.
Oh yeah. Oh.
I tested a couple of them out, and now, mind you, Samuel Miller Mansion does not have anything negative in it. It doesn't have anything evil in it, and I kept getting demon come across it. It's like it's pre-programmed
Yeah.
every once in a while to throw in a random word. I don't like them at all.
Anybody on TikTok I've watched use the Spirits app every single time has had demon show up at least twice, and I'm just like, it can't be a coincidence at this point that everybody that has ever used
Right,
this had
right.
demon come through. And considering myself, and Doug have been on over 100 cases, and we've ran into two over 100. You're talking about less than 2% of
Right.
cases are demonic. There's no way all these places are. So
Well,
Right.
empirical clearly says I don't believe in apps.
Right.
So
yeah,
I like I said, just during the free roam, I wanted to try it out to see how it worked because I was curious. But I think they're garbage.
I think the one exception might be like a spirit box because the way it just scans, it's not really anything. Like there's not a word bank, or what are your thoughts on that?
But you have to figure a spirit box is sweeping through AM or FM frequency in your area, forwards or backwards.
Okay.
So if you're doing backwards AM, for instance, the first public ghost hunt we were at, my group got Get the F Out on AM frequency sweeping backwards at the fastest rate. You're not going to get the F word, number one, on radio, and you're not going to get nothing but static nothing but static, and then all of a sudden Get the F Out across 15 sweeps and then back to static. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. The language that is not on the radio, and if it comes through. Yeah, that's a good point. So we're coming up. We're just a little bit past the hour now. I'm not going to keep you guys all night. I know it's a long weekend for some people. You guys probably want to go celebrate, maybe. I don't.
I have no plans. I'm here. This is my only plan.
I was going to say we can go to the 2-hour mark. I'm good.
I got nothing to talk about. Everything to talk about with you, so we're good.
The next thing, I've gotten my questions out of the way. The question is, is there anything that you want to talk about? You know what I mean? Like, is there anything that you wanted to cover tonight that we didn't get to? Or is there something in the field that you just wish people would know about? Something about your team that you want them to know about? Anything like that?
Yeah, we can cover a couple things. One thing I want to reiterate to everybody is, treat spirits respectfully. Again, we really can't say it enough. We've been on places, even at Penhurst Paracon. They let you walk the halls, and some people were doing investigations and stuff like that. And even some of the questions they were just asking are just, no-go questions in my opinion. Like, you shouldn't ask the spirit, like, oh, hey, how did you die? Like, there's just certain things you just shouldn't do. So again, be respectful. That's a big one I want to point out.
Absolutely.
It's
Uh,
also being tactful when you're asking your questions. You have to be
yeah,
tactful. You got to ask it a certain way to where it's not going to offend.
right.
Yeah, people were doing that at Waverly Hills inside the OR room, which is known to have some pretty intense activity. Like that heavy door, I guess, will like close on people sometimes and seem like it's locked when it's not. And there was like a group in there saying like just stupid, like doing the provocation technique. If you can call it that, a technique, right? I feel like it's just you being a jerk to some spirits, but yeah, I was just like, I'm not going over there because you're gonna piss somebody off, and also it's just tasteless. It's tacky. Be a human to another human that's passed.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh, Definitely another one for me is if you have a paranormal experience and you're looking for a team, definitely reach out to us. But two, if you are not sure who to reach out, let's say you're all the way in Seattle, Washington, we do not go out there. Please still reach out. We do find teams that investigate like us. I am friends with pretty much at least one team in every state, so we can get you in contact with the right people. Because I do not want you to pay someone. There is a team here in Maryland that charges $150 just to walk out to come to your door. That's without even doing an investigation. So if they're charging, they're probably not good. Just again, that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, they're only in it for themselves. They're not in it for you.
Yeah. And we've followed cases like that where we've gone in after another team and they've actually stirred up more stuff than actually helped. And they pretty much said, "Hey, thanks for the money. I'll see you later," and then they left.
Left with some like overly haunted place that they started. Um,
Yeah.
so we
So
have
I
Carolina
see
has a
this
question.
question.
I'm gonna read it out loud in case people are listening on audio. I want to know how your first experience changed you.
Well, it wasn't my first
Go ahead,
experience
Doug.
as a child. It was my first experience as an adult, um, which was in Gettysburg.
Ooh.
And we were investigating the haunted museum there, which the haunted museum isn't a haunted museum. It just has artifacts from the Civil War uh, all through it. Pianos, uniforms, muskets, you know, all that stuff. I mean, it's really awesome to see.
And it's definitely
So,
haunted.
well, it is definitely haunted, yes, but I'll get to that. So we're walking through the museum, Brandon and myself, and we're looking at all these artifacts and stuff, and it's really awesome because I love the Civil War. And we come to this wall of pictures, and they're recent photos, and it gives a little, blurb about the person underneath of it, so on and so forth. And what you don't understand is the people who run this museum own their own ghost hunting group. So with that being said, I'm reading all these blurbs and I come to this one photo and I start reading about this female and I feel three fingers, real light, brush about across the back of my neck. And of course, Brandon's standing behind me. And I think it's Brandon. And I turned and looked at him and said, "I'm going to F and kill you. Don't F with me like that." And I was very verbal about it. And he's like, "What are you talking about? My hands are in my pockets." And I look down and his hands are in his pockets. And the lady who ran the museum came rushing over because she heard the commotion. And she said, "You were touched, weren't you?" And I said, "Yeah. How'd you know?" Well, she said, "I heard the commotion, but you were touched with three fingers on the back of your neck, weren't you?" I said, "How in the hell did you know that?" She said, "You were reading about this person here." I said, "Yes. How did you know this?" She said, "This lady's always known to go to the males that come through here and three fingers across the back of the neck, real light brush to let them know that she's still there. She died of ovarian cancer. She was part of the ghost hunting group." That
Wow.
changed That changed me forever. Not only did I have an emotional breakdown where I couldn't stop crying, but I felt her pain when after she touched me.
Wow.
It was, and I don't claim to be an empath. I'm not a medium. I'm not a psychic. But after that happened, I can now see certain things. So
Wow.
that changed me forever.
Well, yeah, that would, I don't know how somebody would go through something like that or experience something like that and just write it off. I mean, some people are really good at compartmentalizing, so maybe, but that's very, I don't want to say chilling because that makes it sound bad. You know what I mean? It sounds
Oh
like
no,
it definitely awakened parts of you. And
it was chilling. It was the most scary thing that ever happened to me because I realized it wasn't Brandon who I was going to kill.
I mean, that might have been a little scary if Brandon was, caressing your neck, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be a little worried. Yes.
Well, on the other end of this conversation, Doug did turn around and say that to me. But as Doug said before, anybody that tuned in late, I've known Doug now for 21 years. At that point, I've known Doug for, let's just say, 11, 12 years. Um, I've never seen Doug cry the way he cried that day.
Hmm.
And the worst part was, I wouldn't even say the worst. Yeah, well, leave it at the worst part is he literally couldn't get it under control. Like, it took forever for him to really, like,
Wow.
come back to it. And I don't even think you went back to the museum, did you?
Nope.
Yeah, he didn't
Wow.
even go back in. Um, so, for me, I was like eye-opening on my end because I've had my experiences, but I never had that to where like I've
Hmm.
had a breakdown to that point.
Yeah.
So, it was cool, but a little
Yeah.
worrisome too.
That something similar happened to me at Waverly. I'm not going to get into it because it's a whole like situation, but for days afterwards, I was like fucked up over this. So, yeah, I was just you when something touches you like that and relays some sort of themselves to you or some of sort of their experience to you, it's very powerful. And as humans, we're not quite equipped to actually take on that. I mean, we are because you're here afterwards. You didn't die because of it, but we're not. Nobody like nothing can prepare you for an experience like that until you have it. So, what about you, Brandon? Did you have a experience, maybe not like that, but something that changed you?
Definitely seeing my grandmother at the foot of my bed was definitely changing. But I say like the biggest like moment like paranormal wise that changed me was actually going on these cases like residential cases and seeing the difference we actually made. Because a lot of people when we go out say, "Hey, we want this to be confidential. Hey, we want this to be quiet. Hey, we don't want to think we're crazy," which is all valid points. But I'm also a firm believer in, hey, talk about it because it's a good way to reach out to somebody that experienced the same thing. So again, my go-to is helping families. That was real eye-opening to me because something so small means so much to these kids, um, or families in general. So definitely residential.
Sorry, I'm not
Yeah.
laughing at what Brandon said. I'm laughing because I literally just looked up at him and he's got this really, really tiny head and he's got Wreck-It Ralph arms.
Oh, because
And
the
his,
angle.
yeah, because the angle, his arms look freaking huge and his head
I,
looks so tiny.
I've been working out. Thanks
He's
for
swollen.
noticing.
So I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't laughing at
It's
what he
okay.
was saying.
That
It's the
happens.
most
It
comfortable
happens.
spot. I saw somebody earlier, Priscilla, and I want Doug to touch on it too. Comment that
Yeah.
spirits can't hurt you, but I've experienced otherwise. Uh, so
Oh yeah, it
again,
was.
Doug, what are your feelings on it? Because obviously, I know I've been on cases where spirits have hurt people. So,
I know spirits absolutely can interact with you. Um, they can leave an emotional scar on you. They can physically touch you. They can smack the hell out of you. They can punch you. But you kind of got to remember that they're trying to get your attention because that's the only way they know how. It's not that they're mean or angry or malevolent. It's they want attention because they've been forgotten. Is how I look at it.
That would make sense. We have, I don't know who's running your, who's
Rob, the
Rob.
co-founder.
Okay.
Yeah, he's our
Oh, okay.
co-founder. For everybody that doesn't know,
Okay.
he works at a hospital and he has to work tonight, so he
Oh,
wasn't able
okay.
to
Yeah.
join.
Oh my gosh, there's like a giant flying here. So if you see me, like, it's like the size of a bee.
It's a UAP.
It's a UAP. It's an unidentified flying. It really, it is. There's two in here. Did somebody open a window? I'm gonna blame the kids.
Well, I
They
don't.
opened the door and let these UAPs in.
I just have to say I don't believe you because I don't see it.
You're gonna see me like squatting in the air. So I'm not going crazy, guys. If I'm trying to hit these giant flies that for some reason are only in here, which makes me think the boys left the door open. Fun. I have two kids, so they probably left the door open. Yeah, so Rob says from Above and Below Paranormal says he's had death threats, including from spirits on the voice recorder. So that's definitely life changing because like how do you defend against something that you can't see, right? So that's very scary.
So can I just touch on that real fast?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I was talking to another family member team. It is not empirical. It's another one that's in the area that I talked to, and they actually called on an EVP that said kill the kids. And then about 2 months
Mm.
later, the 14-year-old daughter in this case actually ended up taking her own life.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so I'm not saying that the spirit did it, but they can convince you to do things, and like as Doug has said on darker cases, they are influential and they can steer you in that direction, and it's
Right,
been
right.
documented a lot of times.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so again, we definitely take the residential cases really serious, especially something like that, where we actually may have one coming up that is just like that. So
Mhm. Wow, that's intense, especially when there's kids and animals in the house. You're so worried about everybody involved. My son there was something in our other house in Kentucky, and it was like picking on my son, and it took forever for me to get to like have it reveal itself to me, and it was a troubled spirit. Long story short, and I just felt for him because he didn't even want to go in his room. Like to the point where it was scaring him to like where he like ran out of the house one time. Said, "There's something in my house," and he like ran out of our house. And he was like 2 when this happened. So you
ooh,
really want to help people like that, and that's we hear stories like this all the time. People tell us a lot of different things, and just because you can't see it does not mean it can't hurt you. And that's a lot of it is maybe it's trying to get your attention, but also if you're being disrespectful, how would anybody react to some sort of like blatant disrespect if you're being aggressive towards these spirits or, something to that effect?
Right.
absolutely.
So, somebody said, talk about your social media. I will have you give out, I have your link in the description to your website because that connects to everything.
Yes.
So, that is there if you guys are in the area. Or if you're in another area and you're trying to find a paranormal investigation team to check out, either go on their public tours or their public hunts or investigations, or to have them come investigate your place. So that is in the description, but you can go ahead and, say, where can people reach you?
Uh, Facebook is a big one. Myself, Doug, Rob, and Angel, I want to say the four of us, and maybe Sharon too, all have access to Messenger. We all work different hours, so pretty much that's covered 24/7. You'll be able to get a hold of us. That would be the quickest way. The website, there is a box where you can go and fill out a form, and it'll tell us, your name, your address, who lives there, what are you looking for an investigation. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I think that's all of them. I think I covered them all. Did I
And
miss it? Oh, and YouTube.
yeah, YouTube, absolutely. You can also shoot us a message because Brandon's head's actually blocking it. But
Oh,
we do have merchandise for our team because we do not charge for investigations and stuff like that. And this is our way of kind of making a little bit of extra pocket change for our travel and so on and so forth,
equipment.
hotel stays and equipment, stuff like that. That's the only way we can do it. So you shoot us a message and we'll get you some merch too.
Yes, I was gonna wear my shirt, then I was like, that's gonna make. I didn't know if that was like appropriate to wear your shirt. I don't.
Absolutely.
I mean, I bought
Always
it, but
wear a
like,
shirt.
always
Wear
wear
it
a shirt,
everywhere you
guys.
go.
We sold a bunch of shirts at Paracon. We had a bunch of people wearing
Nice.
them and stuff like that. So
Definitely a
please
cool
wear them out
design.
and about.
Mhm. Oh, so what do you guys have coming up next? Like, is there anything we didn't cover again? If there's anything else you want to talk about, if not, where are you going next? Do you have any big events coming in next
July.
or July?
July is our next big one. We will be heading to Indiana and Ohio. Since Doug always travels to us, we're gonna travel to him. So we're gonna go to a music festival one day, which is called Incarceration. It's a metal festival. If anybody likes metal, if anybody's watching, um, if anybody's watching from Ohio, that's gonna be there. Please come find us. I probably will wear my shirt one of the days. Um, but that's definitely there. And then we go to the Bell Mansion in Fort Wayne, Indiana for 2 days. They're generous enough to let us stay the night,
Oh,
one of the
cool.
nights into the other. So we'll be investigating basically like 48 hours straight. And then after that, we're heading to a place called Beale Manor, Bihl in Ohio. Nick Groff was just there and filmed an episode of Deathwalker on his new show. So the owner contacted us and wanted us to see if we catch stuff too, because apparently he did. Um, that's it for really now, and then we kind of slow down a little bit after that.
Very cool. Well, sounds like you have a lot to do, and follow the YouTube, everybody. Follow their YouTube because you will be putting stuff up, I'm assuming, after you have all those adventures. And there's a lot of stuff on there now that you should check out. I want to say hi to more people that joined. I may have not said hi to. I see Gina from Empirical Paranormal. She's been here, but you have a name, so hello, Gina. Hello, Alien Girl. Thanks for stopping by. Alien Girl's like another UFO awesomeness person. She's got like a super cool show as well. I'm not saying as well, like mine's so cool, but you know what I mean. Carla's in here, like my sister. She's pretty much my sister.
Awesome.
George popped in. And yeah, so thank you everybody for joining live in
Yeah.
the chat. Did we miss anything tonight, guys? Did we talk about everything that you wanted to talk about? Because I had my questions, but I always like to leave it open to the people I have on if there's, something they were like, hey, I want to talk about this and we didn't get to.
I would like to bring up. Yeah, sorry, Brandon.
No, no, you're good. Go
Um,
ahead. You first.
anybody that's watching or listening, please, if you know somebody or yourself, that is experiencing some paranormal activity, uh, please feel free to reach out to us. Um, again, either we or uh, another group that we know of that we support will help out, come out, do the investigation free of charge, um, and really get some answers that you guys need. We we love helping people, and I can't put that out there enough that we just want to help.
Yeah, they're good
Agreed.
guys. They really are. Like, there's not one person in the group that night that was like, made me uncomfortable. Everybody was very welcoming. And you were super respectful to the building and the spirits and everybody that was a guest that night for the public investigation.
And again, I do just want to state we are confidential. So I know a lot of people are skeptical of that. Just to remind you, if you message us, the only people that are going to know about it are the people on my said team, and then whoever you decide to tell. But like if you, Priscilla, if you reached out, it would just be myself, Doug, and the members of the team that would know you need help. So again, confidentiality. If somebody comes to you, you contact them and say, "Hey, investigate my house," and they're like, "All right, we're posting it on Facebook." They're not the right team. Please
Right.
choose wisely. Again, I'm not telling you have to use us either by any means,
No,
but
it's good to know.
please pick the right team that's willing to help you. Again, if they charge, if they are all about putting your house on the internet, don't use them. That's not confidentiality. That's not helping you for the right reason.
Right.
So
Yeah, for
and
sure.
then
People reach
and
out to me
then
all the time, and I'm like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
if they're in another state, I don't know what to do for them. So I'm glad to know that you have a network.
Yeah, yeah. If you actually go to our website, we have a Friends of ABP tab, and we've been adding teams that we're okay with throughout the U.S., and you can find it by state. If there's not one, I probably have them on TikTok somewhere, and we just haven't added them because we get, I don't know, we probably got about 150 messages over the last week of people that want to be added to that, different teams. So, trying to see what else anybody else said.
Yeah.
I will say, I do want to touch on something. So, Paracon we just did, which is at Penhurst.
Fun.
And we got to meet the original Ghost Hunters, Kindred Spirits. Chris Williams was there, Jack Osborne, Destination Fear, which is now Project Fear. I just want to touch on everything. Them guys, all of them, and ladies, super nice, super respectful. They acted just like people. They didn't act starstruck. Because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I may have had a, bad experience, etc." Maybe caught them on a bad day, but remember they're human too when you go see them. But definitely recommend going and meeting them because they were just so down to earth. So, and I want to thank everybody that came to our tent and took pictures and bought merch and just communicated with us. We had 20 different people come up and ask for an investigation while at Penhurst. So, again,
Wow.
super great.
I was so jealous seeing everybody's pictures that got to go. I was like, that looks so fun, But
it was great.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up, everybody. Doug, did you have anything else to add?
I do not.
I did see, Priscilla, somebody asked a question.
Was
It was
it?
a two-part question.
Is it
I
George?
don't
Hold
remember
on.
who it was. I saw it it was George. What's the oldest time of ghost?
Okay.
I was going to say, we can end
there
on that. I definitely want to end on at least a question if anybody has any last minute
yeah.
ones.
All right,
and Gina, thanks for tuning in too, and hopefully she can answer too.
So here we go.
What's the oldest time?
What's the oldest type of ghost that appeared to you? Are there ghost animals? And do they appear to be healthy?
Yes. The oldest spirit that I have seen was a Civil War soldier. That's just me personally. Yes, there are spirit animals. I've had quite a few dogs pass away, and out of nowhere, you'll hear them bark, and their distinct bark because each dog has a different vocal cord, obviously. All dog barks aren't the same. And we have a friend, White Bear, who is Native American, who can actually see animal spirits. So I know they're there, and I know they check on you. And have I seen them? No. Do I know they're healthy? Yes. Just by the bark, because it's a happy bark. It's not like a panic bark or a hurting bark or something like that.
That's good to know. We always worry about our animals. Okay, so Deb, I'm sorry, I did have your questions starred. Sorry, I thought I heard like a backfire or gunshot. We are in Baltimore. Tis the season of celebration and random gunshots. So Deb said earlier she asked, and I forgot to go through it. Sorry, Deb, I love you. Is there any ghost conferences in Baltimore?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
So I will say I know they do a horror con out in Hunt Valley. And I know a couple paranormal teams throw themselves in there, but it's not technically a Paracon. That is something we are in the works of working on. We will possibly be having one. We are teaming up with another team to do that. Now, I will say I do know there is Hell House Paracon coming up in, I want to say it's September. And then Waverly Hills is doing their first Paracon this year, too. I would love to go there and be a vendor. It's just not in the budget or in the days off of work. But they are some ones that are somewhat close to the area where you could swing. Because, Priscilla, how far did you say Kentucky was?
So I think when we drove there, it was about 8 hours.
Yeah.
So not too bad if you're going with somebody that can like drive with you.
And they're a 2-day thing. So you go on a Friday, you stay Saturday, Sunday, come home. So.
Yeah. Yeah, Waverly's huge. It's too. I want to go back so bad. It's like I just feel like every place I've been to, I'm like I want to go back.
Waverly's on the list of places we want to go for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's it was hard. The public investigation, people didn't really have good etiquette, so it was it was more free roaming right away. So it's like I had some cool stuff coming in that I recorded, and then also like I had the REM pod going off while I was asking these questions, and it was like, but there was so many people like opening and slamming doors around like those big metal doors. So I was like, I don't know if I could even
That's
like
I
that's
could,
the only that's
do
the
you know
only
what I
couldn't
mean?
do
downfall to
it.
Publix. Yeah, that's the only
Yeah.
downfall to like public ghost hunts. Like we did Penhurst, and even we went on a slower night, and we still had like 7 people per group, and it was still a lot. A lot of noise, and everybody wants to use the spirit box, which I'm still skeptical of the spirit box. So it's you imagine 7 of them playing at once. It's a lot.
Right.
Um, Again, and you did ask earlier, which we did not get to answer. We answered the question of where we want to investigate in this area, but not over the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, Myrtle's Plantation, just because I think it'd be awesome. St. Augustine Lighthouse, or yeah, St. Augustine Lighthouse. I've heard nothing but good stuff. Um, Definitely up in New York. I would just like to investigate with Empirical, just because they were so great at Penhurst. They really were. And I know they're in the chat, but being honest, we met so many great teams. So we're definitely gonna do that. And then in November, now that I saw Rob type something in the chat, but in November we're actually gonna meet with Harrisburg Area Paranormal Society, and we're gonna go investigate Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia. And that's definitely was on the list. So we're knocking out a couple places this year, but they're the big ones. And then I think everybody would love to investigate the White House,
Of
which
course.
obviously it'll never happen, but I would love to do it.
Yeah, Deb says that Ellicott City has some activity too. So that's here,
Yeah,
like,
but that is all an area of Pasadena Paranormal, which we're friends with.
oh, okay.
But they host all their public ghost hunts
Oh,
there, pretty
very
much
cool.
all on Main Street. They're great guys. You can find them on YouTube
We'll
too,
have to
but
look into
they
that.
are they are wonderful. They actually invited me out to go to one of their public ghost hunts. So you may catch me at one of them.
I'm gonna harass them so I can go too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just tell them above and below, and they would be great to have on your podcast too.
Yeah, I'm
They
wanting to
go
do like local. I want to,
do
I move so much. I want to get local people on as much as possible. So,
yeah. Check their YouTube channel. They have a big following. Again, we in July we're going out with our team Get Out Paranormal in Arizona. We're meeting out there, and another
um,
investigator. His name's Steve in Indiana. But Get Out makes his own equipment and does that. So you could definitely
oh,
have them. I
nice.
could arrange that. And Gina, I'm sure would love to come on and talk anything
Oh,
paranormal.
absolutely, Gina.
She's great. Definitely message her. Uh, yeah,
I'll just
Gina,
be
we're
like, give
definitely
me
gonna
a
come out.
list. You'll have to give me a list of people that I can get on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But they're the couple that I would say, especially Gina. Like I said, with being a Taps family member, it's cool to hear some of the stories and how they can. She literally walked me right up to Jason and was like, "Hey, Jason, here's Brandon. He runs above and below," and was just super
Very
nice
cool.
about it. So definitely, if you're looking for people, I can arrange that.
Awesome. So we have somebody asking for the website. The website is in the description, but do you want to say your website? Is it?
Yes, yeah, I'm gonna get it correct because there is a somebody that made a account that's just like ours, but
Okay.
it's above and below paranormal.com.
But
Again,
it is in the description. So,
somebody else made an account and literally put above below. So
So
oh,
ours is above and below
yeah,
paranormal.
okay.
and their logo is different. They're not even in the state of Maryland. So again, just be careful if you're looking for us. Someone else is trying to copy.
Yeah. And it's in
Um,
the description. It'll
so
be in the audio description as well. So if you're listening on audio, it should be in the description for you.
and then again, I saw a couple people mention shirts. Again, they're right here. You have that on the back, and then you also have it on the front, but very small, like on the chest plate. Um, they are available. They vary on price, but you're usually about anywhere from $20 to $25. And then shipping, you would have to pay for. So they can be like 30, $35. If you're close, if you're in Maryland, if you're like a half-hour drive, I can just meet you somewhere. I don't mind driving a meeting. But just message us about that as well. Um, Anybody else in the chat? Did I miss any comments, questions,
See,
concerns?
go through. A lot of people saying they're gonna follow you.
We would love that, and share with your family and friends. Again, we
Yeah,
travel.
please.
Oh, look it. All right,
Please tell them to
George.
go to. Please tell them to go to YouTube and subscribe. And oh, there you go.
George's my man. He's always supportive and here of everybody. So
Appreciate
like,
it.
he's here for everyone. Thank you, George. George put the link there.
And
And
guys, we travel about 3 hours around from Baltimore. Baltimore's the center, about 3 hours in any way. If if you're like 3.5, we would probably still come. Just again, shoot us a message.
yeah, for sure. So George is admin, so that should be a good link for you guys to. He can post links in there and everything. Thank you so much for coming on. Hang out after I end the broadcast so I can say goodbye to you guys backstage. And yeah, I think we covered it all. You guys have a lot coming up, and you are always welcome on here. And go check out their YouTube and all their stuff. In the description is their main link. It'll take you everywhere. It's also in the chat now, thanks to George. And everybody have a good night. Thank you so much. I'm going to
Thanks,
drop you guys
everyone.
out.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, and we'll come on anytime.
For sure. So I'm gonna take you guys out. Thank you everybody again. It's so good to be back and hanging out with everybody. I missed you all, and hopefully I will be seeing more of you on a regular basis. Have a great night, and thank you for listening on audio wherever you're listening. If you're listening later on YouTube or watching on YouTube, thank you. Share, subscribe, like all that stuff, and have a great one.